Welcome villagers to the village hidden in the stories. It is me, Hokage, your guide for the stories that I have created for you all to enjoy. And I hope you will enjoy what we have today. What if Deku had the Omnitrix part 3? And I worked very hard on this one because I didn't get it uploaded last time. So it will be uploaded today, and hopefully you guys will like it. And comment, like the video if you really like it, subscribe, it will help me out, it will grow my channel, and share this video with your friends. You never know, they might like what ifs as well. So without further ado, let's get into this amazingly crafted what if.
Izuku looked at the waking skyboard as the day he arrived on the ship he was now on. What covered the green it was hero attire, which had changed a lot due to the recalibration of his Omnitrix. His hero suit was now made up of a black shirt that had green and white accents on it. The color helped to make the shape of a white hourglass that was fully on the front of the shirt, going all the way up and down. An outline of dark green disconnected the white from the black as it fully closed around the shirt on the ends. His shirt extended to his arms but stopped at his elbows. The sleeves were black with green circles around his elbows and other rows of green lines right above the circles. The bottom of his shirt was cut off by a black and dark green belt that had many pouches on it. His pants were baggy and black with green and white streaks going from the waist all the way down to the ends. They extended down and led to his boots, which seemed more alien but fit to him easily. The boots were black with green streaks all around them, as well as having green glow come from the bottom. And his white Omnitrix would bring contrast to the rest of the suit. The gauntlet-like device covered his whole forearm while being the most eye-catching thing to the suit. Lastly, Izuku had a matching white glove on his right hand and a white communicator in his ear with the same symbol as the Omnitrix on it. It took a while for the boy to remember why he was here. But with the thought constantly on his mind as he waited for 13, Izuku eventually remembered. The Greenet had taken first place in Sports Festival by a landslide. He hadn't realized how cocky that sounded, but hey, who could blame him? Against all odds, when using quirks he hadn't even trained with, he still won the whole thing. After that, he and the class had been able to pick their workplaces from different heroes that had watched them in the sports festival. Izuku had many recommendations, but only one stuck out for the boy. It was 13, along with a note from Aizawa. Another thing was UA was informed of the alien world after the sports festival. But no students besides the ones inside Class 1A knew about him and aliens. He remembered how his class reacted when they remembered the fact aliens were real. And he figured they probably stored the information that he gave them as the fact Izuku had a power that wasn't a quirk. Instead of aliens exists. Which was understandable since there were no recorded alien interactions after the Tennyson era of Earth. Well, besides the plumbers, but that's more controlled. Only some people on Earth have knowledge of that anyway. Izuku quickly sighed and got up. 13 wanted him to come to space for some mission he needed help with. Didn't make much sense to the Greenet why exactly he was specifically needed, but he wasn't complaining. He was sure his other classmates weren't doing anything better than waiting around anyway. Finally, a sound of doors opened, getting Izuku to turn his attention to the reason of why he is here. 13, you finally got here. So what's going on? Izuku said with a grin, pretending he wasn't bored a few seconds ago. The man in a spacesuit just smiled politely under his mask before answering the boy. Well, a couple of things are going on, Izuku. First off, the hero grabbed a remote and pressed a button, causing a green-tinted holographic screen to appear in front of Izuku. We are going to use this time to complete your plumber training. You see, while you are technically a full-fledged plumber, you haven't completely learned some smaller things. Izuku looked at the screen, slowly widening his eyes as it scrolled down. I missed all of this, he said, surprised at the screen he was shown. The space-themed man chuckled before answering. Yep. 13 set the remote down before speaking again. This is why I asked you here. Well, the smaller reason anyway. Izuku turned to his teacher, even more confused. Then what's the main reason? The air around the two suddenly got serious, with 13's demeanor changing. Listen, Izuku. As a hero I meant to protect. As your teacher I meant to help you. And as a plumber I have to be a savior of the universe. But above all else, I can't always be here. Izuku looked down, still listening to his teacher. Listen, Izuku. The boy turned back. The main reason you're here is so I can prepare you. Not with your plumber training, but for people that will come after the Omnitrix. I'm sure you have already met Vilgax. The Greenet would pause for a bit, then give a smirk. Oh, you mean Squid Face? I thought this was serious. No one can get close to me to get this thing off, Izuku said with confidence in his voice. 13 would sigh quickly and then stretch a bit. You've grown, cocky boy. It's time to change that. Time skipped to a few minutes. Izuku could be seen running from what could be described as a giant alien dog thing. The Greenet quickly raised his left arm, dialing up an alien. The hologram landed on the face of Crash Hopper. Izuku slapped the watch, uncovering him in a flash of green. After the flash subsided, what replaced the boy was a grasshopper-like alien the size of tall human. His frame was skinny, with the top of his head being curved. Izuku's legs bent back and were the biggest parts of him. Finally, the boy was covered in a modified version of his hero suit meant to fit this form specifically. With one jump, the Greenet landed behind the alien, surprising it. Before it had the chance to attack again, Izuku jumped at it, hitting it with his head, knocking it out. As the boy landed, he transformed back and turned to his teacher. That all you got? Izuku seemed out of breath but tried his best to keep going. 13 would give a smirk under his mask, making the Greenet worry a bit. You do realize that was just a pup, right? But hey, the lady will be glad to have her pet back. 13 set up a carrier for the alien and walked back to Izuku, who was still out of breath. Wait. This was a mission for a lost dog. 13 would only respond with a snicker. This would continue to go on. Izuku and 13 took odd jobs that would seem beneath plumbers. But with the Greenet's teacher explaining that it was necessary for them to do each one. After the two had finished their work, they went back to the space station located in Earth's orbit. Once back, the two made their way to the training area, with one of them more tired than the other. Izuku expected them to do some form of serious training. But instead of that, the boy ended up in practically a classroom that also happened to be a battlefield. This went on every day for a week before Izuku had woken up one day to someone in his room. Who was there? The Greenet stared off, confused, until the lights in his room came on. Small footsteps could be heard getting closer, only reminding the boy of one person. Finally, the sound stopped as a small figure jumped on Izuku's bed. The figure was easily recognizable as a gray matter. Gray ends from his face came out, looking like some sort of beard on the alien. The species of alien was obviously Gray Matter's species. Asmith. A bored look came from the small alien as he walked to get closer to the boy. Hello, Izuku. It's been a long while, hasn't it? The boy gave a sheepish smile in response. Yeah, it has. What are you doing here? Izuku's smile faded as he waited for an answer. Asmith only grabbed the boy's arm to check the device he had given him. Then he went to Izuku's chest, grabbing the necklace with the multiple keys on it. Asmith quickly tore them off and let them float around him. Wait, what are you doing? Asmith would slightly turn back. I have fixed the Omnitrix. But I have seen you've grown. To sure of yourself. While I say some confidence is good, blind confidence led to people being killed. I will be taking these extra keys. You're lucky I didn't just take the keys in the Omnitrix as well. Izuku's eyes widened as he stared at Asmith. Wait, you can't just... The small alien raised his hand, stopping the Greenet quickly. You cannot decide whether you are ready or not. I have seen the same cockiness in Ben Tennyson when he had saved the universe for the first time. While your confidence isn't as blindly placed as his, you still have no right to be like that. Now see to it that you find yourself once again. I will give you these keys when you are ready. It seems leaving them as a challenge for you was the wrong decision. Izuku looked to the alien, who had started to leave, as it was all he could do. The boy paid back down, seeing his lights go off and having presumed the man had left. Maybe they are right. I've been a bit cocky, but it's a natural response. Right. The Greenet had to think on his words for a bit before closing his eyes. Sure, it's a natural response. But I feel like Bakugo responding like that. Asmith is right, I've been cocky. I haven't been thinking on things like I used to. Sure. I was able to beat Todoroki and Bakugo using abilities I have never used before, but I wouldn't be able to do something like that in a real fight. Izuku opened his eyes once more, still in thought. Maybe I could get started on my training. Would be a good idea. After saying this, the boy would give a smile and jump up. Izuku's Omnitrix would activate, giving the boy his hero costume as he ran to get to the training area. The boy slightly stretched before pressing a few buttons on the side of the wall with a grin. Well, a quick warm-up will be good for me. No transformations. Just me. Green drones made themselves known with beams of light as they came out the walls. Izuku only narrowly dodged the attack before having to run from the robots. The boy quickly turned to the side as he coined himself in front of another drone. The greenet quickly ducked down before grabbing it and pointing it at the other robots. The other robots didn't regesture the robot in hand and were unable to dodge the green beams that came from it. Quickly we are destroyed, with Izuku jumping using the robot he had in hand to destroy more of the others before a stray shot destroyed the one he was holding. The boy had to quickly find cover as many of the drones had locked onto him and started to shoot at him. Damn. I need something. Izuku quickly looked around before finding a small piece of metal that looked to have been shot off by one of the robots. He grabbed it and made to calculate what was his best option for attack. Only a few seconds later the boy threw the metal. The small object ricocheted of the wall and hit one robot. It didn't cause any damage, but it quickly shifted its position while bouncing off to hit another drone. This would repeat for a while until all of the robots were facing at one another. Since they were all ready to fire before the change in position, they completely destroyed each other, leaving one robot left. Izuku jumped up and punched the drone, leaving a dent in it. In response, it fell and deactivated. A quick sigh came from the greenet before turning to the doorway of the room. Standing there was his teacher, who seemed to be smiling under his mask, giving no sound as he leaned on the doorframe. "Seems like you're in a good mood." The greenet would give a friendly smile as he walked over to 13. "Yeah, I've decided I needed to find myself again. You know, just because I've had a lot of wins doesn't mean I can't lose at some point." 13 would give an unseen smile and would fully walk in the training area. "Well, since you've had that warm-up, I guess it's time for a real spar." Izuku would look confused as his teacher got closer. The spaceman suddenly got in a fighting stance before the boy had decided to talk. "Sensei, you're a rescue hero, I can't just fight you." 13 gave another unseen smirk. "Thought you were learning not to be cocky." After this was said, the boy would sigh and get in a stance. "Baby steps." A laugh came from the teacher as a response. "You should transform." Before Izuku could say a word, a light trust me came from his teacher. In response, Izuku slapped the Omnitrix, not caring which alien he would get. A green flash of light enveloped the boy with 16 silhouettes surround him. As they spun around him, Izuku gave a smirk that also had been covered by the green light. The silhouettes finally stopped as one shaped like a buff and lanky alien was in front of him. The figure had multiple orb-like protrusions sticking out of him. The silhouette slammed into Izuku, shifting his body. What was left in the boy's spot was an yellow and tan alien with ears being where his eyes would have been. His mouth was full of teeth similar to the human structure but sharper. The circular patties ions had turned out to be eyes. Multiple eyes were all over the boy's upper body, with pants similar to his hero suit covering his lower body. What was on his belt was the Omnitrix dial, but that was where the similarities to his hero suit ended. Izuku gave a smirk as all of his eyes opened. "You're gonna be irate at this one when a guy beats you." The boy crouched as 13 looked questioningly to his student. "Since when did you speak in third person?" The multi-eyed hero smirked at this, quickly answering, "It just feels right with this form." The first to attack would be Izuku, as he sent two beams of green energy coming from the eyes on his palms. 13 only moved his hand up, his index finger of his suit open to allow the man to absorb the beams in a black hole. The opening closed and the man moved to attack Izuku up close. Multi-eyed boy could only react by blocking after closing the eyes on his arms. The gut strike connected to Izuku, but 13 realized his mistake as an eye looked down at him from the boy's chest. A quick blast of green hit 13 with the shapeshifter running towards the man. The spacesuit-clad man shifted his body, quickly stopping himself from flying away. 13 then rushed at Izuku as well to absorb the incoming lasers. When the two met, the boy tried to sweep his teacher's legs. In response, the man just jumped and extended it into a spin kick, knocking Izuku back. The multi-eyed boy covered his whole body with his arms, trying to stop himself as well as trying to block any attacks to come at him. As the boy stopped, he then sent out a mass of lasers all directed at 13. Said man had to quickly dodge the attack and ditched his suit, which was unknown to Izuku. The only indicator that he had missed was a kick that made him fly into a wall. As Izuku tried to stand, his eyes turned to the figure in front of him. It was human, but at the same time wasn't. The figure had a black glow coming off of him which didn't even seem possible. His muscular figure had seemed to be made for speed, much like Izuku's build. Black hair accented his black eyes as well as his white grin. What covered the man was a basic t-shirt on baggy black pants. His belt had the plumber symbol on it as he put his hands in his pockets. "Man, I'm glad to get out of that suit," the man said, still having his grin. Izuku finally got up with him gritting his teeth. "Who are you?" The man just laughed, realizing his student didn't recognize him. "Well, my student, I'd have thought you would at least recognize my voice." A surprised look would come from the boy as he realized who stood in front of him. 13. The boy said quickly. "Yep. It's me. Now let's keep going. Can't just stop here." 13 rushed at Izuku once more, this time the fight being more one-sided. The man quickly kneed the boy and then gave him a left kick into his side. The boy wasn't prepared as another kick landed at his face, knocking it back. As Izuku steadied himself again, he was only met with another quick blow. Even when the boy tried to use his lasers to stop the onslaught, the man only absorbed said attacks. Finally, the attack stopped as Izuku caught his teacher's leg. "Man, let's make this even." The boy grabbed the dial on his belt and then twisted it to the right. A glow came from the Omnitrix as white metal started to extend from the dial, quickly wrapping around the boy's belt. It then extended downward and upward at the same time. When the armor got to every part of his body, the armor started to shift to fit the alien form. The armor was white with the plates of the armor being green. The helmet of the armor had designs reminiscent of his shape-shifted state. The helmet had two communicators for ear as well as the helmet being specifically shaped for a guy. On the boy's armored chest was a chest plate. What was different was that the chest plate had a green stained glass for his front eye. The plates surrounded the blasts and extend to the next plate to his abs. Plates with a triangular look to them were placed on his shoulders and forearms. There were also multiple green stained glass ports for each of his many eyes. On his palms, however, were two laser ports. Izuku took advantage of his armor and quickly blasted his teacher away. The boy then tried to use his chest eye to attack, but the beam only hit the glass. Izuku quickly looked at his hands, somewhat confused. "I guess this armor focuses all my energy into my palms." He then lifted his feet to inspect the armor more. "And feet. Cool, I could fly with this." Izuku looked to the underside of his forearm, seeing a list for something on it. The list was compiled of multiple functions for the armor. "So I can make energy weapons. I have drones. Wait. I have drones." Izuku quickly looked around his body to figure out the drones, only to get his by a kick that made him crash into the wall. "Nice armor. Won't help if you don't know how to use it." Izuku got out of the rubble that started to quickly fix itself. Unnoticed to the two was the crowd that had grown watching them. The boy growled, "Okay, old man. There is one thing I figured out about this suit. It uses my energy to charge its gadgets. Energy weapons. Energy drones. Focused energy blast. These radio/communicator pieces." The boy pointed to the two communicators on the armor. "They're all powered by me." The glass on the boy's armor started to glow bright green, each one getting blasted by lasers. After a while, drones popped off of where Izuku's eye covers were, leaving his eyes exposed as his drones flew behind him. "It's over." As he said this, Izuku put both arms out as all the eyes on his arms looked at 13. The boy's drones lit up just like his eyes as they charged with power. As expected, green beams of light came from his arms, drones and hands, all completely headed to 13. 13 only put his hand up and created a black hole the size of himself. The black hole absorbed the beams and started to take in the boy and his drones. Not having much control over the drones, they ended up getting sucked into the black hole. Izuku could only hold on to something and wait for his teacher to stop using the black hole. Even after it stopped, the boy had still been surprised. He hadn't lost a battle in a while. Maybe this was why he had to stop getting cocky. There were probably other people in space that would challenge him. 13 steadied the young boy as he transformed back. That was pretty good. You lasted longer than expected. The older male gave the boy a grin before a green flash covered the two. Izuku was back to normal and looked like a train wreck. He seemed more tired than ever, with him somewhat staring off into the distance. "You good there, Izuku?" 13 asked, consented for his student. The man shifted him to make sure he was okay. What he was met with was a snoring greenette who had dozed off. "Well, seems like you were tired. Time skip a few minutes." Izuku woke up to glaring red lights and warning signals roaring through the station. The boy jumped up only to get tangled and fall face first onto the floor. Ow! After the small mistake, Izuku ran out his room trying to figure out where the danger was. As he went to the main area, he had seen something he hadn't realized he wished never would happen. Vilgax and his giant figure had took hold 13 and Asmat, two people that are very close to the greenette. How this had happened wasn't clear to the boy, but it didn't matter. He had to find a way to save them, but that wouldn't be possible as Izuku registered that the squid had already seen him. "Come out, boy. I have seen you. It is impossible to hide now." The alien's voice was raspy with age and the tech that swirled around him. A hole that led to space had been seen behind Vilgax as the man started to become more impatient. Finally, the man dropped the two he was holding up to approach the young boy in front of him. "You better hand over the device or I will end you." The threat hadn't done anything to pull the boy's attention from the bloody floor and the bodies on it. Izuku started to breath heavily as he kept his stare on his teacher and grandfather figure. Vilgax stopped looking down to find what he had been looking at. The man scowled as he fought the boy staring at the dead. They were weak. "And if you want to stay alive, you will hand over that device." No answer came from the boy. Unnoticed to the boy or alien tyrant, a red glow replaced the green on Izuku's left arm. The Omnitrix started to flash between green and red as red scar-like lines started to go up the boy's arm. A small growl came from the boy as his head faced down. What was happening was still unknown to Vilgax. Izuku now had red eyes and red scars that went through his whole body. The Omnitrix flashed through different aliens till the figures weren't recognizable. You humans always schultz when it comes to others. Ben Tennyson did that as well when I killed his cousin. How he lost it. Oh, how a hero will falter from someone close to them perishing. The squid-like alien started to laugh as he held up the keys Izuku had taken away from him. "The best part is that when I peel off the Omnitrix from you, I won't have to deal with another Omnitrix. And with these, the Omnitrix's full power would be granted to the next user." That was the last word Vilgax had gotten in before the boy had mindlessly moved to attack. With one blow, Izuku had sent Vilgax flying further into the station, also dropping the keys he had flaunted. Luckily, no one had still been in the station besides Izuku and Vilgax. The boy slowly walked to his adversary, almost literally only seeing red. Vilgax dusted himself off, looking lowly at the green yet he had dared to approach him. Izuku tried for another attack, which was swiftly stopped by Vilgax. The man's arm was bigger than Izuku's whole body and had slammed down on him with enough force to almost kill him. The mindless boy had only shrugged it off as the Omnitrix worked double time to heal him. "So this is what power you tapped into when I gave those humans my drones. Show me what I had missed. What is the ability you use?" The only response was Izuku appearing behind Vilgax to do a quick jab that ended with the big slamming the alien down multiple levels of the station. Laughter was heard all throughout the plumber base as Vilgax made no move to get up or attack. Izuku dropped down to attack but was just grabbed with the laughter fully stopping. "You might as well been attacking me with a plain old sword." With these words, silence grew. The only thing being heard was the sirens of the base still going off. Vilgax jumped to the main area to grab the keys he had dropped. Rage grew up in Izuku before he bit himself free, grabbed the keys and landed all in one swift movement. "You insolent." The sentence stopped there as Izuku rushed at Vilgax once more, only to be sucked out of the base. In cold, Izuku finally came back to his senses. As he looked around, he saw he was in clear space. What? Shit. Do I die here? The greenet would slowly blink as the Omnitrix turned green and his suit gave him a mask. The boy quickly gasped for air and before calming down and passing out. Izuku woke up in a hospital tired as he shifted, not taking mind of the keys in his hands. As he stirred, his memories from a last night came back. The boy quickly launched up, looking around quickly. He had been in space for a while. Only waking up after he had been stuck in orbit for a bit made him feel worse about what had happened. When people think of space, they think of how their ancestors had conquered it. But when Izuku looked back to that night, that was the only thing he was able to think about. His almost grandfather in Asmat had died, and so had his teacher. The hero. 13. The same one that had given him plumber training. The same one that had shown him why he wasn't meant to be cocky. The same one who had taught him closely. The man had been one of the closest to Izuku, and he had lost him. He knew what revenge did to a person, but he couldn't help but only feel hate to the man that took two of the closest people to him. And now he wanted to beat that same man to a pulp. Izuku remembered what his 13 and Asmat wanted him to do. They wanted him to be his old self again. He wasn't really meant to be the cocky type anyway. And he knew the two wouldn't want him to spend his life set on revenge. So he wouldn't do such a thing. Izuku's frantic thoughts came to an end as he played back down, only just noticing the girl on his side. His eyes widened as he looked back to the girl, who for a few seconds was unnoticed. "Yow," was the sole word that came out his mouth before turning edgy, seeing another familiar face. Only this one was awake with a caring smile. "Morning, Izuku. How is my baby boy doing?" The woman that stood in front of him was one with green hair and similar freckles. Only thing the two didn't share was the boy's unruly hair. Said woman was easy for Izuku to identify as Inko Midoriya, or the boy's mom. A small bit of fear came from the greenet as he looked from his girlfriend to his mother and then back to his girlfriend. After a few seconds of going back and forth, Izuku finally stopped long enough for Inko to ask him a question. "Who is this?" was the quick question from the boy's mom, who obviously had been very curious. "Don't tell me my little Izuku didn't tell me about his girlfriend." The woman started to laugh teasingly at the expense of said boy, who now had a bright blush on him. "Mom." Izuku didn't manage to say anything else, with his mother quickly taking the lead, asking him for every single detail at how they met, which he begrudgingly answered with a long-winded explanation. "Wow. You saved her from a robot. How romantic." The woman put her hands together with a bright smile after hearing the story. She felt as if the girl was already part of the family, but this still ended with Izuku being teased by the woman. And she didn't seem keen on stopping at any time. 1 week time skip. Izuku smiled as he was once again on a bus driving by their teacher to a hero camp. The greenet had been smiling as his girlfriend was asleep on his shoulder. The black-haired girl laid closely to him as their classmates talked amongst themselves. He was also closely listening to his two friends, Achako and Ida, who both had been in a villain attack. Apparently Achako had been able to save herself and Ida alongside Todoroki. It was interesting to hear about new quirks for once, which made Izuku quickly write down anything he could get from the two about the hero killer. Other than that, he had to stop a certain perv from trying to attack him. The purple-haired boy had been on his worst behavior ever since he came back from his workplace. Whatever Mount Lady did to the boy had completely traumatized the boy to anything that was giant. And even worse, the way he felt with the trauma was by glaring at him and Momo, thinking the greenet wouldn't notice. And then it all stopped. Mainly the bus that was taking them to the camp they were meant to be at. But they weren't anywhere near the camp, so he was confused at why exactly they stopped. "Hey, anyone knows what Aizawa is doing?" No student responded. Instead, Aizawa turned back to his class to speak to them. "Everyone out. We have to check something and it's outside." Izuku was able to see the blank face lie a mile away, but if the man wanted them outside, it had to be for a good reason. Unless it wasn't. But if it was that, he was sure they would be fine. The greenet woke up the black-haired girl next to him, which got protest from said girl. Only thing that made her move was the boy promising her he would do one thing of her choosing. After the class got outside, they all hadn't expected what would happen next. Before Izuku could turn to Aizaru, the ground of the road shifted. And right when the boy thought that was it, the whole class was thrown into a forest. Okay students. You all must survive your way to the camp. It's just a few meters ahead. Be careful. Don't die. With those few words, the man drove off, leaving his students to fend for themselves. Izuku steadied himself and looked to all his classmates. Anyone missing or injured? Ida went next to him quickly. No, we are all fine. The greenet smiled a bit as he looked at his friend. Well, it's great to see you're still in serious mod. You already know about me and Momo. What about you and Achako? Anything going on? You told her yet? Izuku gave a smile which was returned with a turn from his friend. Said boy was blushing and trying to ignore the green-haired male. Oh come on. Not even a word. Ida would turn back with an embarrassed shout. Can we talk about this when we get to camp? The class rep only responded by laughing a bit while getting himself to stand. Okay. Well, we can't just stay here, Izuku said while turning to his classmates. Everyone ready? Cause there isn't any way they aren't going to challenge us when getting to the camp. After the boy said this, his class had nodded toward him. Even the grape-haired boy was ready to get to the camp. However, it seemed it was for other reasons. The greenet turned back to face the forest and then moved his arm up. Izuku then placed his right hand on the top, showing a dial-like hologram with there being different segments for the dial. Each segment had a different alien, and quickly the boy slightly moved his hand to select one of the aliens. The boy's hand finally stopped as Izuku found the alien he wanted. When the boy let go, the hologram dial disappeared and in its place was a hologram of the Omnitrix symbol. This was accented by the square-like piece of the Omnitrix slide forward to show tech that looked like a place for the hologram to go. Izuku quickly slammed the hologram into the Omnitrix with a grin. Green light flashed around him as it blinded his class. 16 silhouettes surround the boy. Their green hue intensified as they spun around him in a fast motion. They all suddenly stopped as the one in front of him had looked like a bulky and cylindrical form. The silhouette looked as if it would be very slow and difficult to move in. The silhouette slammed into Izuku as it began to change him. The boy's body began to shift and glow a bright yellow-red. With power wafted off the boy as he changed, but then his transformation was blocked out of sight as a more grew around him. The armor had a blank look to it. A hole similar to whose cell bars looked was what Izuku could look out of. The rest of the armor was as bulky as the silhouette had shown, and a slight glow came from every part. The Omnitrix could be seen on Izuku's new belt and baggy shorts. It was seen from the glass piece on the front of the armor as it would look as if the boy was almost trapped. The green flash faded as Izuku called out, Capital N, Capital R, G. Everyone stared onto the boy looking at his new form, with the boy looking ahead a bit past them. Slightest grew as the first to approach the boy was Todoroki. You do realize you said that out loud, correct? Izuku turned somewhat to his friend with a sheepish grin. Note, I made them friends prior to the time skip. I'm not gonna show a flashback explaining why they became friends. Although part of it is to do with how Izuku changed Todoroki. And Bakugo is still the same for now. Wanting to be a rival for Izuku. Note end. Well yeah. It's just something I do, you know. Kinda is natural for me now. Todoroki would nod to the boy with a smile as both of them turned back to the forest as their attention was taken by a sound of some fallen trees. The class quickly grew tense as whatever had been making that sound had been getting closer by the second. Izuku put himself in front, but this was overshadowed with his class standing next to him. You may not realize it, but we are here for you, Izuku bro. The red-haired boy gave his class rep a grin similar to his own. This would only make the shapeshifter look around with a small smile. Everyone kept their gaze ahead after a while as the sounds suddenly were on top of them. There it was, a Goliath made from the very element below them. The monster had rows of earth-made sharp teeth, with his arms being more than enough to destroy the tall and wide foliage around them. Quickly students rushed in, first being Kirishima. The boy's skin quickly turned rough and solid, giving his signature defense all over his body. Not far behind was Bakugo, flying to the thing with his explosions. Unnoticed to the two who had made their move, 5 other rock monsters appeared and challenged the others. Elements flew around the armored-covered boy as well as punches and chunks of rock. A rock monster bigger than the others stopped in front of Izuku, with this monster being unnoticed by the class like with the others. The energy made boy stare down his attacker. As they locked eyes, or whatever made the thing able to see the shapeshifter began to run through ideas. With quick succession, Izuku's plan was made to take down the rock monster quickly and easily. The boy rushed in, making the armor covering his hand glow with heat as hot as plasma. It was unknown how the armor didn't melt, but still, even with his slow movement, Izuku cut through one of the thing's legs. The boy slightly huffed as he looked to the falling monster. The thing steadily stopped its fall and turned to slash Izuku. The shapeshifter couldn't dodge, so he blocked and got sent through the trees. As he finally stopped, the monster was already upon him with a new leg. Izuku just gave a grin before sending a beam of energy from his armor metal helmet directly through the thing's legs. Before it could fall, the boy sent another beam into the monster's chest, completely destroying it. Izuku regrouped with his class and sent a large beam to clear their path to the camp. A green flash covered the boy before he walked beside Momo. Still tired, the black-haired girl only giggled and smiled before responding. "No, I'm fine. Very awake now. I wonder if there will be any other challenges for the class today." After this was said, the greenet smiled at her, admiring her a bit. "Izu." "Yes." The boy quickly responded with getting out of his trance. "You know you're staring again, right?" The boy could only blush and turn away. "Sorry." Momo quickly shook her head with a bright smile. "It's fine." If she was being honest, she stared too, but there was no way she was going to say that to the greenet, let alone while they were in front of their class. Speaking of class, when the girl looked back, she quickly found her friends as well as Ada, Todoroki and Mineta staring at her and her boyfriend. "Izu." Izuku turned back, still blushing, before he saw where the girl was looking at. Of course, their relationship was at front and center. Hell, maybe he should have asked somewhere quiet so the word wouldn't have spread like wildfire. But it was too late to do something like that. "You guys really like to watch, don't you?" Mina was the first to respond as she quickly was in front of the two, defying all logic. "Well, of course. You two are so cute. Can't blame us for wanting to watch." Izuku only responded with a deadpan as he began to look ahead. "Isn't that a bit creepy?" The pinklet waved it off as she walked with the two, and Jiro finally appeared with them. "No, not at all." The boy only rolled his eyes in response as Momo began to talk with Mina. The greenet didn't hear much about what they were talking about before Momo came back with a sigh. The black-haired girl seemed to be drained with what she had talked with her friends about. "So, what do you think the camp is gonna be helping us with?" Momo would think to herself a bit for answering. "Well, if I'm being honest, I believe since quirk training hasn't been a major part of our class, we might be doing quirk training." Izuku smiled a bit as Momo turned to him. "What?" the black-haired girl asked, a bit confused by the boy. "You're cute when you do that." The girl blushed, then jokingly pushed the greenet a bit. "Say, you remember how you used to mutter about quirks all the time?" Izuku could only blush and look ahead in response. The two laughed a bit before they were reminded by a squeal that they were being watched. The two turned back to see Mina jumping up and down while watching them. Another thing to notice is that a girl had a notebook for some odd reason. Time skip a few minutes. The class finally arrived at the camp as it was getting late. The sun gave an orange hue to the rocky ground as most of the students began to go in the direction of the building. They were stopped by a group of heroes. The groups was made up of 3 women and 1 muscular guy. The 4 moved together in sync as they had the attention of Class 1A. Their costumes seemed to be themed around cats, with one having a blue suit, one with red, one with yellow, and the man had a brown suit. Each had paw-like gloves on their hands, as the first to do a pose was the one in red. Lock on with these sparkling gazes. The second to move into position, which was in a lower stance beside the woman in red, was the one in yellow. "We've come to lend upon help." The third one was the man in brown, who stood behind the two with a grin and a strong stance. Coming out of nowhere. Finally it ended with the girl in blue, who landed in front of the man. Stingingly cute and cat-like. All of them ended it in unison. The wild pussycats. Note: I had to suffer watching this part, so you all must do the same even if you didn't see it. Note end. The class deadpan as they stared at the heroes who were still posing in front of them. What the hell was that? Bakugo shouted out as the other students were silent with confusion. The heroes then introduced themselves as Mandalay Ragdoll Tiger and Pixie Bob before directing the students to the dorms. Izuku walked behind the class taking note of the kid not too far behind him. The Greenet walked to him in interest. "Hey kid. What are you doing?" The boy's speech was stopped as he saw the boy ready his fist. Before the kid could attack him, Izuku quickly grabbed his hand. "Hey kid. That wasn't nice to try and hit me." The black-haired boy didn't respond and only looked surprised as Izuku put him down. The little boy quickly ran off towards the hero group while still having his eyes on the Greenet. That was weird. The boy caught up with his class still thinking on what had happened. Class 1A found themselves in hot springs obviously separated by boys and girls. Izuku sighed a bit as he sunk down to the bottom. The Greenet only going up when he heard his name being called by someone above him. The boy shot up as he saw his blue-haired friend next to him. "Oh. Hey Ida." Ida only yawned as he looked to his friend and gave him a blank look as if he was trying to focus his sight. "Izuku. I believe our purple-headed friend is planning something." With this sentence, Izuku looked to said boy only to see him with a grin. That's not a good sign. The boy turned back to his friend ready for just about anything, waiting for a response. "Well, I won't be any use. I can't see like this. Just watch out friend please. Make sure he doesn't get into his usual shenanigans." Izuku quickly nodded and sat back down, keeping Mineta in the corner of his eyes. A few minutes went by without a move from the purple-headed boy. Until said big head stood up out of the water with a perverted grin on his face. "My men," he said, making Izuku sigh. "Here we go." The purple-headed boy grinned and then shouted out, "On the other side of me is the girl's hot spring. Nothing can stop me now." Kiri shot up with a disgusted look. On the girl's side, Uraraka seemed disappointed as she remembered how her and Ida tried to change Mineta. "You can't just do that. That's so unmanly. Think about the girls." The short boy only gave a laugh before turning to his red-haired classmate. "I am thinking about them. And with this clear gift from the gods, another chance for me to take my place as the best man of the class." Quickly, Mineta threw the balls on his head to the wall, which was connected to the girl's side. The short boy ducked and dodged, even swam to get away from his fellow males. After he got to the wall, the boy quick climbed the balls he stuck to the wall. A perverted roar came from the purple-haired boy as he kept climbing. Unexpectedly, the boy was met with the Greenet above him. He seemed to have his hero suit on and was floating with green energy coming off of his boots. "Man, I really thought you would resist your urges." Izuku made to grab his friend. "I don't care that you're a pervert, just stop going crazy." Mineta turned to the Greenet in surprise at what he had said. The purple-headed boy dropped his head before speaking. "You're right. I'm sorry, Izuku. I must stay strong," the boy said, clenching his fist, making Izuku laugh a bit. Unnoticed to the Greenet, a black-haired boy had been watching him before leaving. Izuku let Mineta down back on the boy's side before landing near the top of the wall. The boy had a slight smile on his face, being proud of his friend. Izuku was about to get off the wall right before he heard his name be called. The Greenet turned, not remembering what laid on the opposite side of the boy's hot spring. When Izuku turned, he saw Mina and Momo giving him a thumbs up. Only Momo was blushing and covering herself as all the other girls tried to hide themselves from the Greenet. It took a while for the boy to realize what he was staring at. A bright blush grew on the boy as he was blasted back by a nosebleed. The boy began to fall as the last thing he heard before passing out was, "Thanks, Izuku." The other boys only watched as the Greenet fall flat on his face. Next morning had the students outside training. Aizawa had shown his students how they had been slacking in their training. The black-haired man had given Bakugo the same ball-through test from when they first started. For the blonde there was no change. So the red-eyed man drowned each student in different and specific quirk training. With Izuku, he was training his stamina with non-stop transformations. When he was taking a break, it would be him training in an alien form while he rested. Not just this, but the Greenet also had to learn more about the Omnitrix for his training. So far the boy had been able to fully recalibrate the Omnitrix, allowing him to finally put all keys into the device. All functions of the Omnitrix had been unlocked except for some transformations and power-ups which were still locked. But with the keys he was able to gain all his other aliens back, which only made his training much harder on him. The serious training went on for weeks and results were seen in all students as eventually it was almost time for everyone to leave the camp. But that wasn't until the week had ended. It had not, as Izuku wandered his dorm a bit tired. God, Aizawa is a slave driver. The boy stretched his arm as he began to make his way to the roof. As the greenet said, he saw the lights of students going through something Class 1B made together. Izuku only found out a few minutes ago that the other hero class was here as well. He also found out that even though they had training, they weren't blown off a cliff. Seems like Aizawa just wanted to torture them. Or he is more strict. Either way, Izuku wondered how Class B would have responded to being thrown into a forest. The greenet chuckled a bit before laying down, feeling relaxed. He really needed this if he was being honest to himself. Being trained into the ground was fine, but seriously, who wanted to be trained like that every day? He laughed a bit, but this was interrupted with a ringing in the green-haired boy's ears. Suddenly a voice rang throughout his mind after the ring had ended. UA students. There has been an interruption to your training. You all have permission to use your quirks as there are villains roaming around this camp. Stay safe when using your abilities. We have information that they are looking for specific people. Again, be careful. And stay strong. Go beyond. Plus Ultra. After the voice had left his mind, Izuku snarled. The greenet had remembered the last time the villains had tried this. Well, sure, he blacked out a bit before, but he still remembered what they did. And now that he was thinking about it, the robots they had brought with them were alien. Nothing similar to the tech on Earth. This meant there was a high chance Vilgax had paid them to take the Omnitrix. Which is how they knew of the device. Which was why they came for him. It was all Vilgax. Izuku didn't notice as the green light on his arm was turning red and green. The flashes accented the boy's rage before the greenet caught himself. In a flash, the boy grabbed his left arm and started to calm himself. With the revelation that they were being attacked just like in the USJ, the boy only had one thing on his mind. Finding other students and helping any way he could. Especially Momo. Izuku slapped the Omnitrix, making a green flash around him. The flash subsided, showing Izuku's spun rush form. The shapeshifter quickly ran around the camp, separating himself every time he picked up speed. Come on. Where are they? One of the Izukus ran through the forest. Another ran through the campus. One more ran up the mountains. The others ran in separate directions, trying to find other students wherever they could. Eventually Izuku found himself on the mountains. He was focused on one thing as he stopped running. The boy saw the girl he was looking for. She was battered and bruised as a blonde man stood above her. The shapeshifter also noticed the black-haired boy who had tried to attack him was holding his arms out at said blonde. Izuku hadn't heard of any blonde hero like this, so the man must have been a villain. It was unexpected for the boy, but the man had attacked his precious people. And he had to protect the two. Before the man could move to attack, Izuku put himself between the two and blonde. Stay back. The blonde man gave a grin in response. The grin worried Izuku a bit, even unnerved him to see it. The grin stretched the man's face as he stared down the shapeshifter. Well. Another student pretending to be a hero. So annoying you all are. He said with his voice shifting a bit. Izuku quickly noticed how the boy behind him was shaking. Why stay here when you know you can die? It's Varian. Shut it. Izuku shouted, trying to figure out what to do. As one rush, he could just overwhelm the man. But if he was careful, he would just go and try to kill Momo and Kid behind him. The kid was too scared to run. And with all of this, his options were limited. The blonde man only cared that he was being ignored as his anger began to surface. What is your name, boy? Izuku looked up a bit, only seeing a raging look from the man. It's Izuku. Izuku Midoriya. The man's anger disappeared suddenly as he laughed. The laugh stretched through the camp. Even the other villains heard the crazy coming out of the man. Once the laughing stopped, it was replaced by the same grin as before. The man quickly stretched his mouth to say something to the boy in front of him. "You're on the list. I guess I got to bring you in. I will at least give you my name then. I'm Muscular." With the words coming out the man's mouth, Izuku only noticed how the black-haired boy had shivered away once more. The black-haired boy then grabbed the alien's shirt. "Izuku." The boy could only crouch to ready himself to escape. In thought that was his best bet. To escape with Thetwo in hand. However, there was always a chance he would come at him in Thetwo even with his immense speed. Hell, he didn't even know the man's quirk and the villain probably knew his. "Yes. Kid." The small child started to shake and stutter. "Call me Koda." Izuku could only nod as he saw the blonde man begin to get bored. "They are awake." Momo, who Izuku had thought was asleep, grabbed onto his shirt from behind him. Kick. Hiss. Asar. Izuku grit his teeth, but then it grew a grin that rivaled All Might's. "Kid." Koda would look up to the shapeshifter, ready for whatever the teen would say. "Protect her." The black-haired boy let go of Izuku's shirt with a nod. Being free, the shapeshifter slapped the Omnitrix on his chest. A green flash of light grew around the area, blinding the blonde. When Muscular opened his eyes, the flash was gone. And the bunny-like transformation had been replaced by a humanoid made of yellow-orange flames and dark red charcoal. No words came from the form as Izuku just stared at the man in front of him. The shapeshifter rushed in as him sent a flame-charged uppercut into the man's head. Izuku expected the man to go flying. It surprised the boy when the blonde didn't budge at all. Instead, a hand covered in musculature came directly for Izuku. The boy was then lifted up and thrown, with Momo and Koda only being able to watch. Izuku got himself out of the rubble, fistful of fire. The flaming boy threw the fire in his hands directly at the man. When the blonde blocked the blows, Izuku only intensified his flames by sending beams of fire around the man. Muscular roared and blew back the flaming boy. When said boy landed, the man rushed at him and hit him into the air. When Izuku started to fall, Muscular just hit him back up. This went on for a bit, with each hit causing Izuku to lose some consciousness. As another punch sent him up, the shapeshifter spun, creating a large ball of fire. The ball of fire started to morph as the boy threw it at his adversary. The ball of fire shifted into a circular blade. As the blade spun, it cut through Muscular, knocking him down as Izuku landed. The blonde man began to heal as the two rushed at each other once more. The students and villain met in the middle as multiple attacks met that came from both. Punch after punch, each connected and each were cancelled out. It seemed neither of the two had upper hand, with Izuku meeting Muscular roar with one of his own. The flames on the boy began to burst out with more force. Izuku's punches started to burn the blonde man's hands. Eventually, Muscular hands were set ablaze by the boy's punches. And even then, the fire started to spread through the man's whole body. With Muscular distracted, Izuku did one final blow, which ended up being the biggest fireball he could make. The blow completely covered the man and knocked him down. As he tried to put himself out, he succeeded but passed out before he could attack the boy again. The green had transformed back before making his way to Koda and Momo. Izuku sat quietly beside them, deciding what to do. His thoughts were interrupted when his girlfriend latched onto him. The greenet could only blush as he was caught by surprise with her reaction. In unison, the two said, "You did it," Koda being more quiet with his surprise. Izuku quickly hugged them, smiling back, further surprising the boy. "Yeah." Momo looked up to her boyfriend, looking a bit confused. "Can you explain some things to me? What happened?" The black-haired girl gave a sigh before deciding to tell Izuku exactly what had happened to get her and Kita in the situation in the first place. The girl explained how before the announcement that they were being attacked, she found Koda walking alone into the mountains. When she revealed herself, they talked for a bit and ended up getting ambushed by the muscular villain. Well, that explains some things. But Izuku turned back to the downed villain, a feeling of dread still new and deep in his body. Unexpectedly, Momo gave him a kiss, realizing the boy was overthinking like he used to. A sound of disgust came from Koda when the kiss ended. "You guys don't ever do that in front of me again." The couple gave a laugh but no direct answer to what the boy said. "I'm being serious." Still ignoring the boy, Izuku helped Momo up. "I'll get you two to the dorm." Time skip a few minutes. When Izuku got back outside, he sat down and thought. So, I have all of my old aliens back. I wonder, how many aliens would that be now? The greenet closed his eyes before tilting up with a grin. It doesn't matter, I have more options at least. Izuku activated the Omnitrix. Haven't used upgrade in a while. Might as well. The boy slapped the Omnitrix, causing a flash of green light to cover him. When the flash was gone, his old form was replaced by his Mechamorph transformation. The blob of nanite stretched to look more humanoid. Man, I've missed my old transformations. Izuku's eye changed to mimic a grin before he ran to an oven and completely merged with it. The box covered in a black substance kept its shape for a bit before it sprouted spider-like tech legs. The box then stretched out a bit before creating a furnace till in the front part of the box became like a flamethrower opening reminiscent of a mouth. Izuku crawled through the forest quickly as he ended up directing many students away from the villains. When the boy finally got to relax, he ended up stumbling onto one of his classmates in a fight with a blonde girl. The shapeshifter jumped out of the machine, transforming to his normal self in a green flash. Izuku quickly kicked the girl away, holding his leg close to him as we watched the blonde. Man, is every villain fighting us today gonna be blonde? You okay, Eureka? The brunette nodded, looking a bit annoyed at the blonde girl in the tree. Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad you came when you did, she said, looking a bit down now. But I could have dealt with her myself. Izuku looked a bit sorry as he heard this, putting his leg down with a sheepish smile. My bad. The two friends smiled at each other before turning to look at the blonde who had steadied herself. Wow. We got a cutie here. She fully got on her feet before staring intently at Izuku with a psychotic grin. You would look a lot better in a pool of blood. After saying this, the girl rushed at the two, suddenly holding a knife that was connected to a syringe tube. Izuku moved to block the girl's slash with his leg. As the blade landed and cut through an inch deep before stopping, the boy kicked the blonde away once more. Acting quick, a Chaco landed on the girl, pinning her. Izuku moved to watch the girl, visibly confused by the fact she was their age. A teen villain was confusing but understandable. With how people are treated for quirks and or not having quirks, it made sense. But at this young, the blonde jolted her arm up to stab the brunette on her, making the green-haired boy kick down her arm. Scanning complete. Izuku moved up his left arm to look at the Omnitrix, waiting for it to activate. New human DNA sample activated. The boy only grinned before getting attacked by a black-haired man who seemed to have burn marks all over his body. Izuku and Chaco backed away, seeing their new adversary looking closely at the new duo. Man, you look like you've been through a lot. The man scowled at the boy before sending blue flames at him. Izuku hit the Omnitrix in reaction, covering him in a green flash once more. When the flash was gone, the boy was still there, just with the Omnitrix on his chest and a streak of red and white in his hair. Izuku created a wall of blood ice that completely blocked the blue flames. The greenet stretched his arms out and sent a blast of green fire through the. Izuku didn't notice the surprise that came from the black-haired man before he was nicked down by the green flames. A Chaco went after the blonde, who quickly was taken down by said girl. All seemed good for the two before the boy been grabbed by his neck. The greenet couldn't turn back before everything went dark. Time skip a day. Izuku woke up in a cold sweat, the only thing surrounding him being darkness. Then a small light came from a blue flame which moved through the room, filling it with the memorable blue hue. As the room was lit up, Izuku saw some familiar faces. Man, you guys are really dramatic, the greenet said as he tried to stop himself from laughing. I mean, an entrance like this for one boy? You guys need some damn lives. To anyone else it would seem like Izuku wasn't taking any of them seriously. But the greenet knew the danger he was in. It was obvious he was in trouble. But what his captors didn't know, the more control he had. In the few seconds he was awake, he noticed his Omnitrix had been fully covered and tied away from his right hand. There was no way he could hit it right now. And the chances of them trying to kill him were low, so he had to buy time. Can't we just cut this cutie up? The familiar girl that attacked him before said. Second to respond was the black-haired male that ended up distracting the greenet. No. Shigaraki said we need him unharmed. Something about the device having a fail-safe. The black-haired man sat down in a seat watching Izuku closely before looking and seemingly waiting for someone or something to come through the door. "Well, I'm bored. When is the bosun shift going to get here?" The black-haired man only responded with a bored sigh and yawned. Feeling ignored, the blonde would move to poke the older male. "Do you ever stop being annoying?" Izuku looked confused as he saw the two interact. These were villains, right? The greenet just sighed before looking up to speak to the two. Some things just don't make sense. Attention was turned back to the boy, with the two having different looks. The blonde girl had a toothy smile on her as well as a noticeable blush, while the man looks as if he would rather be anywhere but here. "You both are weird. But I tell you this." Izuku shifted his right arm in his cuffs as he spoke to the two. "You let me go. And let your master deal with me." The black-haired man just gave a grin before sending a blast of fire at Izuku's face. The flame would stop before it hit, but with no reaction from Izuku. "Really? Anyway." The greenet grinned before his head whipped up, showing a green glint in his eye. "Omnitrix. Code 000390 Lifelock." A green glow came from the Omnitrix before a flash came from it. 40 silhouettes spun around the greenet as he grinned. The spinning sped up before finally stopping on one that looked to be one of Gravitek. Said silhouette slammed into Izuku as his body began to change. Izuku grew and broke out of the chains as his skin began to look more rough and planet-like. After the flash was gone, Izuku was replaced by a new form. His head seems to be in a part of his torso as his big arms were attached to it. The boy's new form seemed to be a similar size to his humongouser form. His legs matched the planet life form style as his feet didn't have toes and were flat and as rough as the rest of him. "Should have let me go." Izuku quickly raised his hand and put the two under 2% higher gravity than Earth's. The two fell to the floor, unable to move, as Izuku looked at his forehead, which is where the Omnitrix was now. Omnitrix. Life lock end. The device just gave a beep, not turning Izuku normal. Before the greenet could move out of the area, he heard a boom. The blast was echoed through the small space until the boy realized it was getting closer. "Damn it." Izuku turned normal after saying this and transformed quickly into Cannon Bolt. The boy covered the two villains on the floor in his armor plates as he turned into a ball. The finale explosion activated as it happened in the very room the three were in. The group flew off from the blast as they were now outside and a bit dazed. Another flash of green accented Izuku's transformation into his normal form. When he remembered he was still around villains, his camp clothes turned into his hero suit. "I've been transforming for a while. I still have my fatigue from fighting these two earlier, as well as muscular." Izuku began to grit his teeth as he saw the two villains throw up. Still in thought, the boy didn't notice the two cursing at him. All he could make out is that he stinker like hot garbage in that form. "I only have enough for one transformation, even with my heightened stamina." The greenet finally stopped his thoughts as he blocked a sidekick from the blonde girl. The boy dodged another blow which came for his temple from the black-haired man. Izuku wasn't able to make a counter-attack before he had to dodge once more from a knife that was thrown by the girl. When he landed, all he could say was shit as blue flames came for him. The flames flew past said boy after he had ducked and went for the blonde girl. The one thing on the greenest mind as he did this was save his power. He knew there was a chance that Vilgex was to show himself if he bought more time. Then that gave him a chance to take said squid face down, which he was going to need one of his forms for. Izuku jumped up and readied an axe kick for the girl. Instead of the blonde, the greenet was met with the black-haired male who decided to block his kick. Izuku tried to quickly pull his leg away, however he was grabbed by the man and thrown into rubble. The greenet stood up and started to push himself out of the rubble. He was met with a knife. The blonde tried to cut him quick, only for the boy to dodge each stab and slash. After Izuku dodged the last one, he grabbed the girl's arm and threw her at the older male. "Wow. The cutie is good," she said with a grin. Izuku just gave a sigh before readying himself once more. "I have a girl to get back to, so mind stopping with the cute comments." The blonde responded by picking herself up and giving a blushing grin. "Mind if I try and take you away from her?" Izuku raised his eyebrow before the two villains came at him. The greenet sighed quickly before repositioning himself. "I'm done with this. As the boy said this, the two villains were on top of him ready to attack. Izuku just plunged both his legs up to kick both of them at the same time. With one hit, the two doubles over before spilling their guts once more and passing out. Izuku breathed heavily before falling flat. Why are things never easy? The boy sighed as he looked around. Seemed like I was wrong. No heroes. No villains. No Vilgax. The Greenet stretched after he stood up. The boy was quickly surprised as another chain of explosions blew past him. After the smoke disappeared, the boy saw All Might and some guy as big as him masked and in a suit. Me. And my big mouth. Izuku ran into between the two before he kicked the masked man, distracting him. All Might, we. The boy was cut off by a yell from the male blonde. Young Midoriya, you have to get out of here. This man. He is all for one. Izuku just sighed before looking behind himself. I don't know who that is, but I am not leaving you here. Especially not when. The boy was once again interrupted by a flash of white light. Said light blinded the heroes and villain. When the light was gone, Izuku's eyes glared at the person who was left. Speak of the devil. And he appears. Young Midoriya. The Greenet turned to the blonde, still keeping his eyes on the new figure. The boy already clearly knew who this was. It was only possible for it to be one person. Who was that? Izuku just looks back to the figure of Vilgax, not taking his eyes off the alien. That is Vilgax. Izuku readied the Omnitrix before speaking again. He is really strong. The boy turned quickly to his teacher. Leave him to me. All Might slightly turned to the Greenet with a questioning look. How will you beat him? Izuku just gave a smirk before speaking. I got one transformation in me. I'm sure I can take him down. All Might would scowl, not knowing how to feel about letting a student take on someone that powerful. Are you sure, young Midoriya? The Greenet nodded once more, put his left arm up. Well then, my boy. The blonde began to shift himself to pull out a strand of his hair as he was in thought. There is possibly someone for all in me. So if anything, he will be able to scan the DNA strand in my hair to get a new transformation. And maybe that will be enough for him to have a new transformation. As the man brought his arm down, Izuku finally looked back to his side. All Might. Are you? Said blonde gave his signature hero laugh before giving the hair to the Greenet. Okay, Midoriya. If you do scan my quirk, you and I will need a talk later. Izuku took the strand of hair before nodding to the man. The Omnitrix started to glow yellow as it scanned the hair. Making new transformation. DNA strand scanned. Connecting DNA to host. New transformation made. As the device went back to green, Izuku started to go through his transformations. The Greenet slapped the Omnitrix before being covered in a green flash.
Thank you for watching the video. I hope you liked it, and please comment to help me with my other videos that I will be making, because I take suggestions for what ifs and I will make them eventually if I have the time to make them. We still have one more video to get through this week. Hope you like that one too, and if you haven't seen the other parts of this series, please go check those out. Without further ado, All Kage out.